Well, I appreciate you doing this. I know you guys are a part of Association of Biblical Higher Education, so I know that community has had a chance to hear your story. But we've got a bunch of the Populi community. We've got close to 500 schools, so a lot of those are not a part of ABHE and probably haven't had a chance to hear your story. So I wanted to take a bit and sit down and just kind of hear it. I don't think I've actually heard all of it. Obviously, we've been working together for a long time. Yeah. I remember, I think it was in 2014 that you guys had about 100 students.
Yes, I think about that much at this time.
And then today it's over 600.
600 active, yeah. I look in the active students, so could not be taking classes. I think we just surpassed 100.
Yeah.
1,000, excuse me, not 100.
Oh, goodness.
So obviously about 600, a little over 600 are taking classes, but 1,000 that could potentially be taking classes.
Wow. Wow. And so obviously that's in a lot of growth, short space of time. And that's what makes your guys' story so fascinating. And I'm sure there's a lot of lessons that you all have learned through that process. Can you start off and maybe just give a bit of background on the school so people know where you guys are at and who you are?
Yeah, so we were founded in 1985, and we're a grassroots type of college, so no denominational backing. I just started with the vision of a few core people. It started as an institute, obviously unaccredited and stuff, until we received full ABHE accreditation, I think in 2013. We achieved candidacy with them in 2008. I started working in 2011, and we were at probably at that point about like 60 students, 70 students maybe. And it was that way since 85. So about 25 years, it's always been anywhere from like 20 to 60 students kind of going up and down, flowing, but never kind of breaking anything. And then 2011, when I came in, our registrar system was Grad Pro. So it was starting to get dated at that point. And before that, they were even just using Microsoft Word, creating our own resumes and or transcripts, and kind of going off of that. But Populi has kind of made things a lot seamless for us since we made that move in, I think, 2013, 2014, around there.
That sounds right.
And yeah, I think from when I started 2011, we were at, again, about 60, 70 students. We're starting to grow and reach about 100. And that's when we were like, we need a better registrar student information system. And Populi came with that and a whole lot more, and made kind of a lot of other jobs easy, including reporting and stuff like that. A lot of people ask us, like, where can we attribute our growth to? And that's kind of the infamous question everybody asks. But honestly, a little bit of word of mouth, just kind of people, natural organic growth there. Did some SEO type of stuff with website and a little bit of marketing, but I'd say most of it is just we were in a great location at the right time. And
yeah, I was going to ask about that. So you were you're in Deerfield Beach, correct, Florida, and but you moved locations at some point. So talk a little bit about where you were and then kind of what led to that change.
So when they first we had two moves, actually. When we first got founded in 1985, we were in association with the church. So we were just kind of very close to the church. We used they had an academy during the day, and the college would use the classrooms at night. So again, 20 to 50 students. And then upon getting ABHE accreditation, the college kind of wanted to branch out. But the church was also moving to another location. So we found that as a good time to become very independent and kind of not relying on the church. So actually, when I started, in 2011, I was helping them move pretty much across the street, still from Deerfield Beach to Deerfield Beach, but from more of a church facility to an actual, like more of a storefront, but we were able to convert it and make it into a classroom. And then about 2 years ago, 2017, is when we just outgrew it. We were having problems with keeping things up to code with the amount of students we were having. So we moved from, I think, about 8,000 to 10,000 square feet to 50,000 square feet.
Wow.
Location about 1.5 miles down the road, still in Deerfield Beach. But that's been a blessing. But also the place we moved into is a call center, so we have a lot of converting to do. And if you look at it now, and we've only been here 2 years, you wouldn't know that it was a call center before. It really looks like a college today.
Yeah, I looked through some of the pictures and I actually was curious. I mean, so that was 2017, but it's a great looking campus. I mean, it has that street appeal and it looks like a great place to go and hang out. You've got the facilities where you've got the meeting areas and yet that, I mean, your growth obviously was happening before 2017. So it's continued from there. Right. But was there much of a difference in terms of that location? Do you think there was a little bit of the extent to which that location change helped make, higher visibility or anything like that?
Definitely a little bit, although our last location was right off a very main highway. We're still off of a main highway, just a different one. We're closer to interstates and what we call them now. So we're a little bit closer to them, so easier to get to campus. But we're still working a little bit more on that. But the location has made our students' life a whole lot easier, especially when we're having problems with the fire code. In our old location, we had to have classes with no drywall up. Sometimes we were going through a tough period there, but now we actually have a student lounge facilities. We don't have to use one room for 3 or 4 different purposes, including an office and a classroom and a meeting room. We can actually spread out in our students.
Yes.
And I think because of that, quality of education and services leads to higher satisfaction and more students wanting to come.
Yeah, I mean, so you said word of mouth earlier. That's just going to get people out there telling their friends. And so, but you guys how's the degree offering changed? Tell me a little bit about that.
Just a year ago, I think from a year ago, we've doubled our degrees that we offer. Our academics team, with me at the head, kind of did a lot of work to get these things approved. But we had a lot of degrees before accreditation, obviously, that we had to get rid of when we got accredited. A lot of doctorates and things like that. But thinking back to 2011, 2013 time, I mean, I remember we always had a core of 5 bachelor's degrees, 1 associate's, and 2 masters. That was the longest. And now we have about, I think, 6 or 7 associate's degrees. Again, about 6 or 7 bachelor's degrees. I think 5 or 6 master's degrees. And we've launched our first doctorate this year, the beginning of 2019. So going back to probably around when we got Populi, degrees have doubled or tripled the amount of offerings that we have. But yeah, it's been a lot of work, especially.
That's a lot of work. Yeah, definitely. So what's the breakdown like with students between the different degrees? I know you guys have a psychology degree, you have a admin and management degree, and then those that focus on like theology and biblical education.
We pull up the dashboard real quick in Populi, which makes this easy to get the breakdown. But we started an English program as well, and that was around in 2014 as well, around that same time, for students, because we're in a very international hub here in South Florida, and we were getting students transferring to us from language schools, and they were not passing our English proficiency requirements. And their response always was, I've been in a language school for 5 years. And we're finding out there was a lot of kind of diploma mill versions of language schools where they would just play a video and just keep them in the room and maintain their status and not actually teach them English. So instead of turning tons and tons of students away, we decided, let's create our own, let's get our students ready ourselves to pursue kind of a bachelor's or master's or doctorate degree. But that's almost half of our students now is our English, just under half. Other degrees that are large are actually master's in biblical studies has probably encountered the most growth since 2014. I remember back to 2014, like 3 or 4 students. And now it's close to 60 students in our master's in biblical studies. Our ministry and leadership program does really well. Our business program does really well. Our psychology program just started this fall, so probably will take a little while to get the number of students up in that, but we imagine to have a lot of growth in there. But before that, we have a Christian counseling degree that was also very, very popular. So we think there might be a little stratification of students between those two degrees.
And the students that are in your English programs, their goal is to eventually move into one of your other degree programs.
So it's the best of both worlds. We'll get them for the degree program eventually, but we'll also get them for the other part. And I use the term get them, but we'll keep them. So they don't have to go anywhere else. We can keep them in-house, get them to the level that we know that they're going to be ready to do academics. And our English program is tailored for academic purposes, not for conversational purposes or things. So we're teaching them how to succeed in an academic setting.
Yeah, that's awesome. That makes a ton of sense. And they've got their goal is to eventually get to study whatever it is that they're interested in, but they can receive that education that they need in English first so that they're prepared to do that. Yeah. At what point did you all become Title IV and start offering financial aid?
It predates me from 2011, but I think after we reached candidacy in 2008 with ABHE, it had to have been no later than 2009, 2010 that they started doing Title IV funding.
Yeah, great. So that's been there all along and been a component that you guys have been able to offer. I know for some schools, the point at which they're able to offer Title IV is kind of that point where they can really start to go out and attract other types of students. But it seems like you guys have found just the right mix of program offerings and then been able to meet some pretty serious needs that you guys have found there locally. And that's sort of what has led to that. And then obviously you're doing a good job with it. So people are out there telling their friends.
Yes. Yeah. That's been kind of the most rewarding thing in the area. We don't have a lot of outside threats. If you're doing like a SWOT analysis or competition, so to speak, because students are international, and any other school around us has a different price for international students, where it's 3-4 times the amount. And that's where word of mouth really has become beneficial or caused a lot of a rapid growth, because when they find out, hey, I can get an accredited degree and I don't have to pay $1,200, $1,500 a credit hour to do it. So that's really where I think word of mouth has been instrumental. The quality and the affordability of our programs, it's a no-brainer for a lot of people. Yeah.
And so what about online learning? Have you guys started any online programs, or has that been a factor in, the growth as well?
I think around the same time as Populi, 2014, 2015, we started with our seminary degrees, graduate degrees, offering them 100% online. We were always approved up to 49%. But it's been okay. We expected more growth than we have, but one of the main uses of our online programs, or online courses, I should say, is a lot of people mix and match. So they're not a completely online student, but they are taking half on campus and half online. A lot of the international students have requirements where they have to be on campus a certain amount of time. So even then, we'll take at least one online class a semester to kind of lighten the load of having to come to campus and sit in class for 3 to 4 hours a week. But it started to expand more recently because I went out and finally got NC SARA approval to be approved in other states other than Florida, and that was about a year or two ago. So we finally started marketing in other states and do some Google marketing in other states online to try and see interest in there. It's been probably more recent growth in the last year with the online program, but has been good and steady, not as quick as the other areas like our English program or just the international student base, but has been growing steadily, especially in other states.
That's great. Talk to me a little bit about you guys' use of social media, and then, just targeted. It sounds like you do some work with like Google Adwords and things like that. Yeah. Tell me a little bit about that.
So I also help out with the marketing area or the recruitment aspect. And we do leverage pretty much everything social media wise: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, etc. Just kind of trying to make it a little bit more organic within the social media platform. Just because we have done paid marketing via Facebook, Instagram, stuff like that. And the issue that we encountered was the quantity of leads, because within the social media, at least Facebook platforms, it was a lot cheaper per lead. But it was harder to close these leads. And when you're paying for these leads and there's just 2,000 to call now, and okay, you're kind of overwhelmed with the amount of leads, and
Yeah.
conversion rate wasn't even up to industry standards. But Google AdWords has pretty much seen a higher conversion rate. Obviously, lead sources like referrals and stuff, we'll have conversion rates sometimes in the 40 or 50% for a given month, which
Okay.
is crazy high. But
Yeah.
Google AdWords can get up to 10% in a given month for conversion rate on all the leads that we're receiving from them, which that has been probably the best, and where we've noticed the best return on investment for paid marketing or paid advertising.
And so you were saying that with Instagram and Facebook, the quality of leads is not as high as AdWords.
Correct, from at least our experience.
What do you think? So how do you think that goes? Like, so if they see, you know, a post on Instagram, or they find you, or somehow, how are you then getting from that point to an inquiry?
So we use lead generation tools mostly with Facebook, but there are other types of advertising, but it's manual. So we would get the list of leads from Facebook, and then we would manually input them into Populi as an inquiry and create a new inquiry.
Gotcha. And so was that all? I guess at this point, I know with Facebook and Instagram, LinkedIn, stuff like that, you can target location based. You can, you know, so you've probably been mostly doing local up until this year, and at this point, you're able to start to branch out. And
yeah,
how do you limit? You know, I know that there's tools for limiting kind of who you're targeting or what. But in the online space, if you're trying to promote your online degree through AdWords, or, you know, how do you choose your market for that?
So AdWords is pretty well branched out, and we just use a lot of keywords and negative keywords. So we'll see what people are searching that is leading them to us. And if they're searching for 100% doctorate of ministry online, which right now we're offering 50% online, we'll put that as a negative keyword. So it's just a kind of a continual process of narrowing it down for AdWords. And I think at some times we did reserve it to Florida just because of our status at that time, but now it's pretty much everywhere but California that we're advertising for Google AdWords, because really we're trying to, again, boost that online component, which has been kind of at least slow and steady growth, but still growth overall, and growth in different states. So we're trying to do that. When it came to social media, we mainly did lead generation. So it was focused towards online programs. So it could have been other states. And again, I'm talking about like the last year, more recent times. But more recently with social media, we've more been doing events, promotion and stuff like that, if it's paid, just to get people in the door. For just, I don't know, the cost per lead for Facebook is significantly cheaper, but there's a negative side to that, meaning the amount of work now that you have to spend calling those leads, and the quality of leads isn't as good, as you're paying a little bit more for a lead for Google AdWords, but they're a better lead that you'd be more likely to convert and close.
Yeah, because the difference there, with at least with AdWords, you're able to filter off of what they're looking for, so you're able to focus in on those people that you know are looking for a particular type of degree or education. With Facebook, I don't think they give you really. You're just kind of demographics. You're saying, show me people between this age range in this location who might like whatever. You know, like there's some like certain likes and interests you can limit it by, but not.
Correct.
Not
so
to that detail.
Really know what degree they have or anything, and they might already have a degree. Sometimes I hear reports from our advisors in the admissions department where they're calling people is like, oh, did I click on this? I didn't mean to click on that. Or, oh no, I'm interested in a job even sometimes, and they're not really actually a student. So it's just the culture, I guess, around Facebook at least, where people are just clicking on random things and not really taking it seriously, and not
Right.
knowing, even sometimes not even knowing that they signed up for anything or that they allowed their information to be given to us.
Right. So if you mentioned events, so if you're going to promote an event, what kind of events are you guys putting on?
So we do a lot, some geared towards recruitment that are like open houses. Some are student services event, but we try to make it a little bit more community minded. But there's fundraising events as well. But we kind of have taken the framework or viewpoint recently is, let's just get them in the door. Like you were mentioning our campus earlier, let's just raise brand awareness. Let's raise an awareness of who we are. Because being in a large metropolitan area down here in South Florida, there's still a lot of people that don't even know that we're here. Don't even know who South Florida Bible College is, at least locally. So good to just raise that brand awareness. So that's kind of what that is. And sometimes, yeah, people will walk in the door not knowing who we are, and you never know who those people are that are walking through as well. But kind of that's the approach that we've taken. So we don't spend tons of money on those event promotion, but it allows our event to be seen by people that live locally and that may share similar interests.
Got it. And do you mess around with billboards or any other, local magazines or publications?
Magazines, yes. Most of them are geared towards the international population. So we have a lot of Latin American students. So we've done some advertising in Latin American magazines. Radio, we did one recently with WayFM, a local radio station, which I think is actually in a lot of different states as well. But typically we haven't done WayFM, haven't seen a lot of success, and we just did a test one. Billboards, we did get a quote about a couple of years ago. The price was just kind of a little substantial with I guess the prime location that we're in down here.
Sure.
So more expensive, but we do want to at least test and try it out. We're just trying to get somebody to underwrite it for us.
Right. Yeah. Do you do that sort of thing where you come up with a campaign and then you'll go out and find someone to support it? And
correct. Yeah. So every now and then, usually our board members help out and such that are a little bit more inclined or interested in that. So the more recent one that I can think of, I forget the magazine. I think it might have been like Christianity Today or something like that, where one of our board members paid for a year-long advertisement in the magazine, as an example. We've been more, because our conversion rate for referrals is crazy. Let me see what it is for this past August. 36% of all referrals that come in, we close on and they become students. Just this past, or actually in August, September.
Yeah, that's really high.
Yeah. So what we're trying to do is just do grassroots type of stuff, go to churches, go to local events, local conferences and stuff like that. So that's been our next kind of major move that we're moving into to try. I mean, it's going to take time and take a lot of just putting feet on the ground and going to events, but that's more of what we've tried to do in local partnerships as well. So it may not be an event, but a partnership with the local church or local organization, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Trying to do that a little bit more.
And so, yeah, so do you have local conferences or opportunities, meetups, places where you can go and get in front of people just physically, like sending people and tell them about the school there?
Yeah, so we have a lot of local stuff, and not as much as we'd like to, but sometimes, again, it's such a large area down here that there's events in our backyard and we don't even know about it.
Sure.
We're just finding out a little bit more of those. Our recruitment team just went on a Christian high school fair around the state of Florida, which was beneficial. I think we generated a little bit over 100 potential leads just through that. We have gone to other states recently outside of Florida with the NC Sarah approval, but we've noticed not really good conversion rates on conferences outside of state. And today it starts the AACC conference, American Association of Christian Counselors, which was kind of the last event that we were going to do out of state and see how it went, and then probably stay within Florida from then on. just because we haven't been closing. We need to develop, I think, partnerships with churches or somebody who can be in that community and be a perpetual kind of presence of South Florida Bible College just through announcements or stuff like that, which I think is more the area that we need to go.
Yeah, it sounds like if word of mouth has been effective locally, essentially what you're trying to do is develop those relationships so that you've got someone who knows you, knows the value of what you're doing, sees the outcomes in the students' lives, and then they can communicate that to people locally there.
Yes.
Okay, so let me think. What's your total, like how many leads are you shooting for? You know, you mentioned 36%. I don't know what your incoming class size is, but I don't know, I think it's interesting for other schools to hear numbers on like, all right, how many total leads are we trying to get to for a year?
So I focus more on conversion, especially with the recent paid social media marketing, which could generate tons of leads.
Okay.
I kind of combine stuff together and do a report every month, but just for social media, that's 2008. For instance, Facebook, 800 leads in the first 6 months of 2019, and we converted 2 of them with a conversion rate of 0.3%. And that's 800 of 2,000 leads. So almost half of our leads were social media, and we converted 2 of them. So you can imagine the amount of work, you double the amount of leads that you would have normally had without the paid marketing. You double the amount of work for our admissions team, but we're not converting them. So this year was the first year we stepped into paid social media marketing, but probably we wanted to give it at least a full cycle of a year to kind of see if it's good, and then we would kind of trickle down. But we've already started to trickle down even now. At least in our area. But first 6 months, we've had over 2,000 leads in closed, over 200 of them around a conversion rate of 10%.
Yeah.
So,
and when you say closed, I mean, that's like
enrolled in classes.
Enrolled in classes. That's impressive. And that was 200 out of 2,000. And what did that represent? All of social media, or does that include AdWords?
That's everybody.
That's everything.
Single lead that came in.
Okay.
Just the first 6 months of this year.
So that's going to include and someone you might meet at a conference. It's going to include someone that just calls up and asks for information. That's everyone. Okay. So about 2,000. And what's your total spend across everything? Do you have that?
One area I'm not in is the financial part, but I do need to get that information. But
how do you talk about that? Like, is it you're going for a total number? Like say, okay, we got to stay under this dollar amount, or like you said, is it sort of, well, if someone gets excited about some aspect of advertising, they might go out and decide to get the donations to make it happen?
Yeah, right now it's been organic and flexible. So not just, not very strict within, okay, this is our spend for the academic year. And it has to be for these specific marketing tools, whether Google Adwords, social media. So it's kind of been a month-to-month basis from the financial department where they'd say, we'll give you this amount, and kind of give the marketing team a flexibility with where they want to put that money. So we have that flexibility. And obviously the donation-based marketing is just a plus on top of that. So you get to do extra things. But there is a general budget. I think it's anywhere from $3,000 a month right now that we're given. And we've been pushing most of it into Google AdWords because that's been the most successful paid marketing. But what's the problem with the international students? It's a blessing that we have this, but you never know with a change of policy from the U.S. government.
Sure.
Change everything for us. So we have to be a little adaptable in that sense. And that's why we haven't really put paid marketing into the international market, because it's coming organically and naturally. We've been trying to leverage domestic students that are U.S. citizens or permanent residents and try and get them excited about Bible college, even though there's a common misnomer or of what being in a Bible college actually is. and they all think they're going to be a pastor or something. That's the only reason you go to Bible college. So we've been doing some things, or trying to do some things that attack that stereotype as well. It just may benefit other Bible colleges as well, but a social media campaign targeted towards what is a Bible college, for example, and kind of going against common stereotypes. So, I mean, there's tons of different things that we're doing, just kind of seeing what sticks, but that's marketing, throwing everything out, seeing what
sticks. That's great. Absolutely. Reports for, before we leave on the admission stuff, are you creating anything outside of Populi? You know, what tools are coming into play there?
So I use Populi information, and what I do is have a conglomerated report of everything that I can disseminate to people like the president, etc., that isn't going to go into Populi and look at each individual thing. So I put it all together, mainly use that funnel report and look at individual lead sources. And then what I do is also look at reports of declined reasons. I think that's one thing that I kind of do and count student by student through Populi, because I don't think it conglomerates all the declined reasons by lead source, by time frame. So for instance, I'll list every lead sources, compare them along that funnel from lead or prospect all the way to enrolled. And then from those same numbers, how many are still active, how many have declined, and why they've declined, kind of comparing those rates. And then we also look at just each individual admissions advisor who's walked into students and see what their conversion rates are, etc. But Populi, all the information comes straight out of Populi. I just put it all together in an Excel spreadsheet. It takes me long once we get like towards the end of the year, because I want to do a full year from January to December, like report of what conversion rates, etc. And for the decline reasons, having to go one by one. Those get a little tedious.
Yeah.
But for the most part, Populi has definitely been helpful than any other admission software we've had in the past.
That's good.
It actually has allowed us to see the problem that I'm sure schools have and that we have is you have to get everybody on board with inputting the information to Populi. Because as long as you put it in, it's so easy to get out and look at. By the end of the year, we're going to have 5,000 leads that we have to look at and know conversion rates by lead sources, et cetera, and see what's working and what's not. So if the lead source is put in, that's all you need, then boom, everything else is kind of taking care of you from there. But if they're not put in, or only half of them are put in, you're not looking at accurate data.
Right.
And that's what we struggled with in the first couple of years of using Populi, but once everybody bought in and got on board in different areas, billing, library, all these different tools that Populi has, once they buy in, it just becomes seamless, at least in my perspective, and makes everybody's job a whole lot easier and gives us a lot of good assessment data.
That's good. And so what other challenges have come? I don't know, staffing, did you have to go on a hiring blitz? Have you tried to stay flexible so that, that if the student numbers ebb and flow, you're able to sort of adjust, or how's that process been?
So yeah, we did go on a slow staffing blitz. I wouldn't say it was crazy, but actually, if I think about it, probably was, because if I think back to 2011, we had 5 on-staff employees, not even full-time. And now I think including adjunct faculty and everything, we're over 100 staff and faculty members. I think it was 130 the last time I looked. That's one thing Populi doesn't fully meet our needs for, and that's an HR software, but that's not in your purview really.
Right.
But definitely a lot of staff hires. We haven't really, I wouldn't say we've been too flexible, but we've always had very low rates compared to other ABHE schools as far as pay rates and salary. Just, I don't know, God's blessed us with people who have a heart for the ministry and not for money, really. I think our president has just gone to ABHE average with her salary, and we're now a large ABHE institution even. So that's kind of helped us to continue our growth and get into this building that's 50,000 square feet. And adjunct faculty still take a very, very low pay rate. We're trying to get it up and value them in any way that we can and be a little bit creative in those ways as well, if it's not through finances. But yeah, we did have to, especially in our English program. I mean, sometimes it's like 3 weeks before classes and we got to hire 6 professors. And we don't know what we're going to do. So because of that massive growth in the English program, a program that just started 3 years ago, 4 years ago, now has over 300 students just in that.
Oh, that's crazy. Yeah. And do you do much on the development side, fundraising?
We do use Populi for that as well, and that's been beneficial. And just honestly, even if you have like 10 students and you're just paying the base fee and a little bit per student, all the stuff you get with Populi is way more cheaper than buying an admission software, a donation management software, and 20 other softwares when it's all there. It's your SIS, it's your LMS, it's everything. Your library, your bookstore, your QuickBooks even, although it doesn't handle payables. But we definitely, I think we're involved in the beta testing of the donation software even for Populi. And
that sounds right.
It has everything we need, honestly. I've been involved a little bit with the setup. I did set up Populi myself, I think in about 2 or 3 weeks, getting all of
That's right. I remember that a decade ago or whatever it was.
Degree catalog. So I pretty much know everything and have been staying up to date with it. But it's been good tracking funds, tracking campaigns, seeing what campaign appealed even down to there. So you really get pretty good reporting. And I don't think there's anything that I've wanted from a donation management software that Populi doesn't do and give me reports. But our donations compared to other ABHE schools have always been very, very low. Very, very low. We're very, as far as revenues, tuition was like 80-90%.
Oh, interesting.
But donations have finally begun to come up in the last 2 years through a lot more just activities we've been doing kind of at the helm of the president who's helped and led those. And I think we've had one of our best fiscal years this last fiscal year in donations, bringing that up. But I mean, you're talking, I think we probably hit 3 million in revenues this past year. Most of it again being tuition still, but donations have finally started to come up. Not where they need to be for the size of our institution now, because I know some schools that have 50 students and still have the same budget, $3 million.
That's right.
That we have.
Well, do you find people are, I mean, is it projects? Do they want to have a project that they want to get involved with? Is that what seems to be the key in bringing in those donations, or what have you guys found?
It's always been, but the issue we're having is getting the right people through the door. And that's why we've been doing these Facebook marketing even for events, because sometimes it's not about students, sometimes it's about donations as well. Just get people through the door. Events have been the most beneficial for us, just because we target specific people and get them to these events to donate and at live auctions or stuff like that. So it's been more relational. But definitely through my experience, it's always been project-based. I mean, if you say, give me $100,000, what are you going to use it for? Oh,
right.
Pay the rent. Okay, that's not as good as saying I want $100,000 to help fight cancer or something like that.
Right.
You need to put something behind it. If there's no project or something that they can connect to, they're not going to give. Goes back a little bit to my studies. I minored in nonprofit management, kind of specialty in fundraising. That's how I found myself at South Florida Bible College. I was doing an internship for my nonprofit management minor, which was focusing on fundraising management.
Oh, interesting. Oh, that's great. And do you guys have any projects right now that you're working on?
I know me personally, I'm actually trying to raise money for a scholarship for students engaging in missionary studies, just because that's been a huge downturn just overall in the U.S. of young people that are interested in becoming a missionary. So I started a campaign for actually receiving scholarship money for one full-time student to pay for their entire classes. Kind of named it the Jim Elliott Scholarship, kind of what do you call it? Honoring him, being a young person, 28 years old, dying on the mission field. So that's been helpful again, probably more successful than other campaigns that we've done. But still, again, we need more relationships, I think, is what we're missing. We need to make connections with the right people. And in South Florida, that's tons of schools are coming down to our backyard to receive funding from donations. So we need to find a way to leverage it. And we've been sort of hitting our head against a wall, but we're slightly breaking through, I think, just through different connections.
A lot of competition down there.
Yes.
But it's also a blessing that you guys are able to, it's actually remarkable that you're able to be as efficient in order to be able to pay for everything that you need to pay for with tuition. I know a lot of schools have, it's like 50%. They've got to get scholarships and get those donations in order to make that happen. So if you are able to start to make some of those local connections, it's just going to be make you that much more efficient.
Yeah. I mean, we've also just committed, and we've been kind of blessed to experience this growth. So we've committed to partnering with other institutions and other organizations, and actually give back to a lot of churches and organizations ourselves. We just finalized a partnership with a Bible college in India that we're hoping to be able to maybe scholarship some of their students, because they're just like us and they're starting grassroots type of college. So a lot of students will call and say, I can only pay for half of the schooling. So, I mean, in a way, we can still give back to other organizations and other institutions, reaching this grand call that we all share as Bible colleges and seminaries. But it's been rewarding for us in a way too, I think, although a lot of people don't like hearing that, like, hey, in a way to kind of be blessed to receive this growth is through partnerships and actually through sending out of money sometimes or resources. It'll come back in some way.
Yep. Oh, I meant to ask, with the online learning, what LMS are you using? Populi, or are you using something else?
We're using Populi, no integration thus far. We are exploring potentially integrating Big Blue Button.
Okay.
We've decided to just use Zoom for now.
Yeah.
So most of our online learning is asynchronous. So
yeah, I know we're looking at. We're looking at Zoom as well, because we have a lot of people who are using Zoom. So we've explored building that integration, and I think that's happening. So you shouldn't have to switch, which would be good.
That would be good, yeah. That would be helpful. So we just opened a new accounts, but like I was saying, most of our online learning is asynchronous. So there's not really the need for at least the live learning, but even if it's asynchronous, still using a Zoom and recording the lectures and putting that for somebody else to watch later is fine as well. But definitely for our doctorate program is really why we've engaged, because that one will be synchronous and the student will need to be live during the intensive format that we have for that. But been using Populi. Tons of other opinions or ideas have come out with other systems as well. And I know you guys have some integrations like with Canvas, I think, and some other LMSs, but it just, for me, Populi has been the easiest. I have had students that come from FAU, a large public university 5 minutes down the road, and say Populi is better than the system that they're using, and a lot easier to navigate and get around. I don't really have any students with difficulties trying to navigate the Populi system, just with the help formats that you have, and maybe in the first semester, but probably a couple weeks through the course, they'll get used to it. And because it's the same LMS for an on-campus course, our on-campus courses use it to upload their PowerPoints and stuff like that. So once they've taken an on-campus course, they'll know how to navigate around an online course as well. So we've kind of made that standard. Even a lot of on-campus professors prefer to do tests on Populi. They just make them come, go to the testing lab, and then they all take the test right then and there. Just easier to monitor and actually have assessment data in Populi for us to go back and look at instead of some paper somewhere in my drawer.
Right.
So
that's an interesting, it seems there's just a real divide between schools that sort of embrace the idea of the LMS and then they use it for all of their on-campus courses as well. And the students who are, even if they're showing up to class every week, they still get all the benefits of, hey, I'm going to administer this test online so it can be auto-graded, or hey, this assignment's due, go ahead and submit it through Populi so that everything's there. But from the schools that I've seen that do embrace that, they might have online courses going, they might have, but they're still using it for all those on-campus courses, and they're able to take advantage of all those efficiencies. And really, it's a value add for students because they would rather have the ease of just logging into Populi and taking the test or submitting the assignment or whatever it is.
Yeah, I think, I'm not 100% sure, but I've gone on visits and visited other schools. And I think the only reservations I heard from other schools was typically schools that are like us. They have an international base. They even teach in other languages, although we don't do that. And I think they were having problems more so with that use of other languages in Populi. I know there is that translation button at the bottom, but I think a lot of them were using Canvas just because it's something that made it easier for them. And again, I don't know 100% for certain, but those were kind of the reports I get there. But everywhere I go, when I visit a team, they're always asking me questions about Populi and different uses of it. Whether they're not using the donations, and I show them what it is and how easy it is to track, and it's free for you if you're already on Populi. You don't have to pay for another program, or it's just about an LMS or even the bookstore. I think the only thing we're not using is the library, and I want them to use it, but it's not always my say with that. But I think we're using everything but the library. We even just started using the calendar to schedule all kind of rooms. We even have conference rooms and stuff that staff reserve and use. Pretty much everything we use. Yeah, the only thing is the library.
Well, great. I appreciate you sharing, and I know this will be useful information for others. And appreciate it's been great working with you guys, and looking forward to seeing you at ABHE whenever that is.
Yes.
I guess spring.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for sharing. And anything else?
No, I think that's it. But I mean, like I was saying earlier, I wouldn't say Populi is the reason for our growth, but Populi has made growth possible is a way to accurately state it, I think. Without it, I don't think we would have either just crumbled and not been able to handle it, or made it through by the skin of our teeth. But it's made everything seamless and made the growth easy for us as we've grown the last couple of years.
Well, that's great. It's good to hear. It's been great working with you guys. And again, thanks for sharing, and we'll talk again soon.
Thanks, Isaac. Appreciate it. See you soon.
Yeah. Take care.